Hi, friend. I hope you're having a good week. But today, what I want to particularly help you with is that you might feel a little bit off, drained, that things are going okay. You're in a successful trajectory, but something doesn't feel like it fits. And I want to help you address that today. And the first thing I want to say is that success and alignment are not necessarily the same thing. Many high capacity leaders have learned how to do what they need to do to get the results that they want to get, to even get affirmation from others. Yet on the inside, it might not feel meaningful. And so that's what I want to help you kind of deal with. So I'm gonna give you kind of a 5 point framework. I'm going to be using notes today. I don't always use notes, but I want to make sure that this is particularly beneficial to you. So first, what I want to say is that you may have been rewarded for your performance more than your design. That's generally people hire us and reward us according to what we deliver for them. Our performance, is that going to be good enough for them? And so then but that might not be resonating with our sense of identity and purpose in life. So the question is, am I succeeding because it fits me or because I'm good at it? Now, ideally, we want to find kind of a balance in life that we have both things going on. We're doing things that we want, that we like to do, that we enjoy doing, and that we are good at. But many successful leaders are developing their strengths really to get approval, to get income, to get influence. But as they do that, it's not working on the inside. So here's kind of indicators that maybe you've been rewarded for performance, but not for your design. That here's an indicator that you have kind of high achievement, but low fulfillment. And you can tell it's kind of draining you. It doesn't feel like this is sustainable. Others might not be able to tell that for you, but you can tell it. And so I've got really good news for you. The good news is God only wants you to be who He created you to be. Let me say that again. This is really good news. God only wants you to be who He created you to be. Now, here's the bad news, if it is bad news. You're not really able to be anything other than what God created you to be and sustain it and experience joy in it. You can do it. You can do it for periods of time, but that's where the drain happens. That's where your life kind of leaks out along the way because you're pushing, you're striving, you are using your energy to do what you're not actually aligned or created to do. So what you want to do is kind of get that alignment, discover who God actually has created you to be. And so you want to do that. Some of the ways you discover that is to recognize, what am I burdened to do, or what do I desire to do? Those things, like, this is what I feel like I should do, or this is what I really want to do. That's a really important indicator. Now, what I'm good at becomes valuable as it aligns with those values. It becomes valuable as it aligns with your values. So you want to do what either you're driven to do, you kind of like, this is what I want, this is what I sense, you're good at it, and that it also has positive impact. A life without impact, having positive results, either in the atmosphere, in the makeup of the community, or positive impact on individuals, that's a life that doesn't feel meaningful very long. So you want the burden and the desire, you want it to, you be good at it and that you enjoy it. You want it to have impact on others. And when you are doing it, the goal, part of what I try to coach people to lay hold of, you want to experience what I'll call the zone. And the zone is when all those things overlap, your design and your purpose and your placement. And when you're doing it, you kind of lose track of time. These are the things where you could be doing for hours, and then you look up and you go, what have I been doing? It's been like awesome. That zone is what we're after. That's where you feel fulfillment. That's where you are aligned. That's where you are having impact. However, let's go on to point two of this kind of framework. It could be that you have confused, in a sense, affirmation with alignment. Like I said, what you can do is ask yourself, do people celebrate what I do more than who I am? A lot of people in the workplace are functional units. They're not really celebrated. That could be, that could be throughout your life. But I want you to know God wants you to be in a place where people recognize you for your contribution and you for who you are, that you're actually celebrated. That's a value I want to see fulfilled in your life. So, external affirmation in your roles or in your patterns or identity, those are good, but that's not enough to meet the depth of who you are. So here's indicators that you maybe have been confusing affirmation with a sense of alignment in your life. People think you're thriving. They think, gosh, that person, they got it made. They are doing it. Look at all that they're doing. But on the inside, you feel kind of disconnected. Maybe that's increasing. Maybe things that you were thriving at that were bringing you life before might not be as much now. You might be living a life where you really don't want to disappoint others. It's not necessarily that you're people pleasing, but you don't want to disappoint them, their expectations of you. And so if you were going to make changes in your life to align it, that's a thing you're going to have to deal with. Is this going to disappoint them? So internally, if you can't face that, you're going to feel trapped. Whenever we feel trapped for very long, it starts to grate on who we are. But good news again, what we want to do in our lives is receive God's perspective on where we belong now. So we're not just looking to meet other people's expectations. We're not even totally just looking to please ourselves. We're looking for God's perspective. What does He want to accomplish in me? What does He want to accomplish through me? So we're paying attention because God has placed you right where you are. Now, this is kind of an interesting thought. We're in crazy days in history, right? Things are exploding with AI and media and all these things, technology just going. And you could say, oh my goodness, this is a confusing time to be alive. Could be, and it is. However, God chose out of all history this time for you to be alive. Not only did He choose you to be alive at this time, He chose to place you right where you are. And so you want to clarify those things. You want to clarify who you are, how He has placed you, and His perspectives on what to do in those roles, in those settings. Who is He highlighting for you to give particular attention to, for you to mainly serve and build? So He's placed you, you want to be aware of that. And who does He want you to particularly connect with and serve? How does He want to bless them kind of supernaturally through you? See, these simple steps, they're not complicated to understand. They're difficult sometimes to do or to consistently be aware of where you've been placed and take your action seriously so that you are having impact. A third kind of lens to consider, or a third piece of the framework is your energy is telling you the truth. Now, that's a hard one for me to learn because I've had this kind of I want to be consistent. I want to be moving ahead no matter what. So if I'm facing hard stuff, I kind of deny, I have a tendency to kind of deny it, push it down, and push ahead. You can do that for short bursts, and that's valuable. You don't want to be somebody totally affected by, oh, my energy directs everything I do. However, what I'm learning to do is to pay attention. And I want you to pay attention to your energy. Pay attention to the energy flow in your life. Don't try to just overpower it with your own energy. Instead, cooperate with it. So here's a question. What consistently gives me energy in my workplace or in my relationships, in my tasks? And what consistently drains me? What gives me energy and what drains me? Start to pay attention. You can jot those things out. Start to shape your life in a way that there's much more energy building than there is energy draining. Sometimes you're thirsty. You want to take a sip of something too. Energy's often the clue. Um, and it can help you to recognize when you're misaligned. When you are misaligned with who you are, it will start to drain you. Chronic depletion in your life is a sign that you're going to need to shift direction so that you are more whole. Here are indicators that you might be losing energy. There's a sense of constant pushing. You're disciplining your life. You're white knuckling. You're just pushing and pushing. You're starting to lose some joy. The things that used to bring you joy don't bring you joy anymore. Matter of fact, you're not sure what brings you joy because you're getting depleted. Maybe there's no margin in your life. It is pretty much scheduled. You get up, do the things, do the things, do the things, get home from work. Now you're doing the things with family or whatever, but there's no margin. There's no room in there. So rest doesn't even restore you. When you take a rest, let's say that you are even practicing a weekly day off, a weekly kind of Sabbath of renewal. It's maybe not enough. Maybe when you go on vacation, by the time you're starting to get rested, it's time to end. That means you're getting too depleted. So what you want to do in that kind of situation is you're going to need to learn the work life relational alignment, kind of a what I'll call a rule of life, so that you're governing your whole life, your finances, but your work, your exercise, your spiritual life, you're overseeing it in a way that has spaciousness in it. So developing a Sabbath rest, a weekly time where you are actually not accomplishing. Some would even say, learn how to waste time well. That might take you a while to work that into the system of your week and your practices. It might have to adjust from some weeks to weeks, but that process of getting a weekly day where you are being restored, oh my goodness, that's going to help you with alignment. It's a time to stop. Let me say that again. It's a time to stop and to rest. Be restored, be renewed. As scriptures describe it as delighting, something that actually brings you joy, but isn't a depleting joy. It's a renewal joy. And then you're starting to kind of like realign and you start to reintegrate with your life. But that process can be hugely valuable for you to move ahead with a sense of alignment. So, as I've mentioned so far, it could be that you've been rewarded for performance more than design, or it could be that you've confused affirmation with alignment, or you haven't been paying attention to the energy. Your energy tells the story a little bit. But it also could be that you have outgrown your previous assignments. Here's something that's kind of wild to me. I'm 67 years old, and I'm realizing that if I had this thing over, I would recognize that I probably need to update my understanding, update and upgrade my understanding of who I am and what I'm doing about every 5 years at least, because we're changing. And so things that were actually assignments, they're shifting, our energy shifting, our skill sets developing. I need to upgrade and understand those things. So the question that I would ask you is God finishing the season that you're working on in your life? Is he inviting you into a new season? You may feel like that. I work with a number of people who feel like I can tell something's shifting. I can tell my desires are shifting. I can feel this sense. One, I'm made for more, but two, I can get this sense that there's another season. I'm just having a hard time identifying it. So I'm in that kind of in-between state and it's wearing me out. Unfortunately, many leaders, because leaders tend to be like a little bit hyper responsible, leaders may feel guilty when a role or a business or ministry assignment no longer fits them. They want to be faithful and keep completing it. Well, you want to be faithful, but you want to be paying attention to God, paying attention to yourself, paying attention to what's going on around you, so that you can make the shifts in life. Life is dynamic. You will have different assignments in different stages. So these are some ways to recognize them. When you're faithful to the past season, that doesn't mean you have to be faithful to that season forever. Here's some indicators that maybe the season is shifting for you. You feel a restlessness. It's kind of like, I'm just not content. And it isn't that something's wrong. It's not you're just discontent. No, you're just restless feeling. There's a kind of holy dissatisfaction. I want to step up into more of what God has for me. I want to have greater impact. I want to go deeper in whatever area. Could be that you, as I mentioned, you've been losing some enthusiasm for the things that you once loved to do. You might find yourself when you're in that situation and things are shifting, you start to focus on problems and you focus on the kind of failures of others. You're starting to get kind of a negative focus in your life, and that might not even be the way you hardly ever are. But you're kind of recognizing this drift to see what isn't happening or what people are doing wrong. Things might just feel like they're kind of drying up. When you're in that state, you have this temptation to feel like this is the way it's always going to be. I want you to know it's not the way it's always going to be, but drifting won't get you out of there very well. Paying attention and then doing what is most valuable for you to align your life will be really valuable. Now, if you're in that kind of in between state, I do want to recommend a book to you that I read. I've read this book. It's one of the books I've read most. I've probably read it 4 or 5 times. It's called Necessary Endings, and it's by Henry Cloud. And it brings up just the importance of like doing a thing, and then when it's time to end it well. We often don't want to end something till we're clear about what's coming ahead. You might not be. Sometimes you can't see ahead until you've ended well. So I recommend that book. Necessary Endings is a really good book. But let me, for now, move to that kind of fifth step in the framework that I'm sharing, and that is your success is no longer connected to your purpose. So it could be that you started something or started a job, and that was your purpose to grow and to learn how to do that and to function that way. But maybe your purpose is matured or is shifted, and so you're succeeding, but it doesn't fit the big thing. It doesn't fit the thrust of your life. And so the question is, am I accomplishing the things that matter deeply in me and to God? This is huge. This is when you can get into that zone. When you're doing the things that matter to you and to God, that overlap in itself, powerful. This is where many high capacity leaders feel hollow because they have learned to do what's expected. They've learned to play the game. They're actually really good at it. It's kind of almost like if you're playing a board game or playing a sports game and you get good at that. But once you've gotten good at it, you have to either go to new levels or it dries up. And you may experience that. You're producing good results, but it's no longer connecting to like what is most valuable to you. Here's some indicators maybe that that's the case. You might be busy, but not fruitful the way you would like, or you're productive, but it's not feeling purposeful. It's just not connecting with who you are. And you could be successful, but not satisfied. Well, it's that mixture of purpose and strategic plan is where you want to go to have those things coming together. This is where you want to go. You want to go to where those overlap your design, where he's placed you in the sense of assignment, your purpose, and you're able to function in your gifting and your abilities. Those are overlapping in a way that you're in that zone that I described. When that's happening, when you can see what to do to align with that, it feels too good to be true. That's when your work doesn't feel like work. Your work feels like, I don't even want to say it's play. It's just delight. It's fulfilling. You may tire yourself out, but it's a good tired that you get restored from and you feel like that was worth the investment. So where you want to go at first may sound too good to be true, and depending on your own formation, how you've kind of like developed and healed in your soul, if it sounds too good to be true, you may hide from that because it doesn't sound fair. That life should be this drag and should be working hard in ways that don't fit you. Nope. That's not what God has for you. What he has for you is aligned with who you are. Remember, he only wants you to be who he created you to be, nothing else. You get to be who you are, which involves delight, alignment, and impact. When you clarify who you are, what you want to do, and what you uniquely have to offer the world, that's what I like, how I define purpose is when you can clarify it and articulate and say, this is pretty much the main thing I have to offer the world, which for me is to help people clarify what's in them and their alignment, the very kind of stuff I'm talking about. That's what I have to offer the world. When you have that, when you can clarify that and align your building into the next season with that, whoop, feels too good to be true. You're no longer simply responding to distractions or even to opportunities. See, if we don't have a sense of clarity and purpose, and we get into that kind of like shift stage, we start hearing about like job opportunities. And this one pays more. This one it could be living in that situation. And we're looking at the opportunities. There's value in that. But that's not the key thing. What you want is not just the opportunities, you want the alignment with who God's created you to be so that what you're doing is going to be sustainable. It's life-giving to you, it's impactful to others. So that's where you're living in your sense of purpose with a plan. That's what I'm talking about. So, the goal is alignment. I want to encourage you when you're praying, pray for alignment and pray that God will help you to start to see what alignment looks like. So you can start putting those pieces, governing yourself to put those pieces together so that they're moving you forward in one direction. Here's the question. Does my current life fit the person God has created me to be? Or merely the person that I've learned to become? Or what others have taught me to be? Let me ask it again. This is the core of where I want you to really dwell. Does my current life fit what God has created me to be? Or is it more what I've learned, or more what the world, others, family, friends, workmates, they've taught me to be? The good news, God gives you authority to take responsibility in your life and to aim it in a way that fulfills you, that honors God's perspective in your life, and that has impact on other people. That's what I want to help everybody learn to do. So my goal for you, my prayer for you, my hope is that some of the hidden costs of success that this was to surface it so that you can overcome it, move ahead, be successful in impact, relationship with God, sense of self, and relationship with others. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.